What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome to another game review. Today, we're going into The Last of Us Part 2. What do I say? When words have left me dry and all I knew from the previous game has left me to an extent feeling kind of hollow in this experience. What do I say? That I expected the worst, that I knew what was going to happen. Nothing could have prepared me for what was going to happen in The Last of Us Part 2. From the psychology of loss to the coping mechanism that revenge brought our characters this is a masterpiece that emotionally, it brought me to my knees. It brought me to a place of where I've never felt this way about a video game before. The truth always comes out when Joel hid from Ellie that she was the only one able to die for a cure to be created. It made her curiosity of what happened on that fateful day turn from a curiosity to a hatred to a vengeance after Joel's murder. Now, Joel's murder being one of the most hated scenes, I believe, in gaming history. You guys can put your opinions down in the comments below, but I really think that Joel's murder in the game is a piece of now gaming history that will always be just despised. It set the whole game up to really be the story that it is, and from seeing how Ellie handled it and how that kind of like that ripple effect causes not only her but Dina but Tommy, even Abby, to, you know, really it just causes them to just feel her emotion, feel her pain, and act accordingly to what they know based off of what she's given them to an extent. Ellie's humanity dwindled down, only wanting to get revenge after what happened to Joel, which is right for her. You know, each character in this game acts on according to what they want for themselves. It's a very id movement. It's a very much a selfish, I want this, so I'm going to have this. At whatever cost, even if the cost is losing literally everything she cares for, the happiness she fought for, because she was so used to just, you know, Ellie was just so used to surviving her entire life, literally from birth until where we see her at the end of the game. She was just used to surviving, and when nothing was threatening her existence, that's when she panics. This game isn't an Ellie game as much as, you know, people wanted it to be. It's not just going to be this heroic Ellie game of where she fights for what's right and that's it. No, this story and this game is a delicate dance and balance. Only playing as Ellie couldn't happen because that wouldn't be necessarily honest or true to the narrative, or even the dynamic of how the characters functioned in the world. Both sides needed to be heard, and that's a tough pill for a lot of gamers to swallow, quite honestly. So let's take a look at the other side, shall we? Let's take a look at Abby's side. Looking through a killer's eyes has more dimensions in this game than anything I've really ever seen in a video game, of where The Last of Us Part 2 is, in a way, it showcases it shows the loss on Abby's side. It shows what she goes through, her perspective of where when we're seeing Ellie's side and all of what she's going through, then we take a dip over and see Abby's perspective on that same exact thing, on that same exact adventure, what she was doing, her motives, her modus operandi, if you will. This game is thorough. The way it showcases the loss on Abby's side, it drives the player to really question who's the bad guy. And spoiler alert, there is no bad guy in this game. There's just two lost people who are fighting for what they deem to be right. There's really no right or wrong. There's no objective reality whenever it comes down to this video game. It's more or less, okay, you're seeing one side of the story and you're seeing another. You're not really seeing, well, this person's really evil and we're gonna kill them, or this person's really evil and we're gonna kill them. It's just both sides of the same coin. Whether it's Ellie finding justice for Joel or Abby finding justice for her father, you're still seeing that same fight for the people that they cared about. Along the way, people were dying constantly, and the grieving for both Abby and Ellie never fully stopped. They were still grieving, they were still processing, and through that you see them at their most vulnerable, which I think Naughty Dog really handles human emotion in video games and showcasing that at its rawest points very well. Abby as a character, though, she showcases her humanity in more ways than Ellie. I will say that. She showcases how she is as a human being, caring, kind, but in other instances you'll see her as manipulative and vindictive and just a pure jerk. Only once did we see Ellie cry. We saw Abby cry actually a lot in the game, but we only saw Ellie cry once, and that was after she found out that she was literally the only cure for this entire virus that was happening, this entire viral takeover that was going on. That was the only time that we saw her cry, and that was in a flashback in Last of Us Part 2. With Abby's character, she has the right mixture of violence, humanity, and humor. She actually turned out to be one of the most relatable characters. Like, she and I both have a fear of heights that is debilitating. Like, oh my god, I cannot. You guys saw my playthrough, okay? When it came to that section of where they were going through the path in order to get to the hospital, that was terrifying. I cannot even put it into words. I don't get scared easily in video games, but whenever it has something to do with heights, no, not at all. No, just count me out. And she's also the most relatable in how she processes fear and emotion, because she will act right on the spot with a lot of her emotions. Whenever she sees Mel and Owen dead, she immediately just hurls. You don't really see that with Ellie. It's a balancing act, and it was achieved with both of these characters that made for the perfect storm. Let's go into some of the psychology now, shall we? You guys want to go into some psychology? So the psychology of The Last of Us 2 really shows the player that choices have consequences, right? Choices have consequences. I'm gonna say that again. Choices have consequences. When you play as Abby and Ellie, while the story is linear, this is a linear story. You don't have a choice of who you play or anything like that. This is something of where, like, you go into this game, you play the first part as Ellie, then you play the first part as Abby, and then you could go a little backing and forthing, and then that's it. You don't have a choice. Your choices have weight and merit and a heaviness to them that really affects everything that happens in this game. Now, from the characters having PTSD flashbacks, you know, I'm talking about Ellie in this instance, to issues with empathy. This game really brings out not only the story, like brings the story to the forefront, but it brings the character's mental state to the forefront, which I don't really see in a lot of video games, unless you're talking about indie games like Fran Bow, or you're talking about The Witcher. The Witcher really does psychology very, very well, but this one really brings a lot of it out. Like, it shockingly brings it out. It's just like you have to constantly look in the mirror and each time reflect on the past. Your character reflects on their past each time that you're in the game, whether it's, you know, through different means that they have of sitting in silence like Abby does, or whether it's, you know, like Ellie playing the guitar. You're really like doing these inner, like, mental health checks in a way. In this game, there's really no happy future. There's just a life running from what could kill you next. Now, when I was mentioning the guitar just now for Ellie, that is her self-reflection. That is how she deals, how she copes. The line, "If I were to ever lose you, I'd surely lose myself." Each time that she sits down to play the guitar, notice that that's the song that she is singing. Until you come to the almost the end of the game, that is the song that she is singing each time she plays the guitar. Now, a lot of people were pissed off at the fact of how Joel died. At first I was too. I was like, okay, why was it done this way? This is poor writing. It was done way too early. But then I thought about it. And as I went on and I played the game and I continued on, and I was like, okay, wait a second. Much like life, they're trying to make this as unpredictable as possible. So when you go into this game and you see things happening at the spur of the moment, things that you wouldn't really expect, like life, it is unpredictable. Death is something that you cannot plan for. As much as you prepare, as much as you go through the rigmarole of everything, you can't plan for when someone you care about deeply dies. It's just, you can't plan for it. So it's always going to come as a shock. The fact that people were pissed off at the way Joel died, it was brutal. It was a brutal death. I bawled my eyes out whenever I got to that part of the game. You can't always go out in a blaze of glory. It's impossible. You know, you can't always do that. And they showcased how death, in a post-apocalyptic world, mind you, would be. Because people think, oh, it's Joel, you know, he was a badass in the first game, and, you know, he knows that, hey, you really shouldn't go into a situation like this. Like, what's going on? You can't do this right now. But think about it, okay? Logically, think with me. Joel has gotten older. He's had a peaceful life from when he went to Jackson and was with Ellie and Tommy and all of them. So he kind of settled down in a way. He settled down. He made less of a fuss about being that kind of like really violent person that he once was, and is just the dad. He is the dad. He is the homemaker. He is the person who just wants to chill and relax. And the fact that they still, oh, okay, I gotta go out and, you know, shoot a few, you know, clickers and everything like that. That's, you know, that's become a normal for them. Joel was the father figure to Ellie. You know, he was a father figure to Ellie, and the very thing that she needed in her life was stability, and he was able to provide that for her. Now that he's gone, the only thing keeping her sane is the love for music that she has through him. Guitars in this game are like you know what I said before, mental health checkpoints of where you're going from the first time that she played the guitar in a cutscene, innocent and cute, to really desperate and lonely. The guitar parts are, you know, some of the best parts, I think, of the game. They really show Ellie's mental state throughout the game. And as she gets lost in her vengeance, her guitar playing and flashbacks get more intense as it goes on. You know, and I want to bring up another point about Joel's death. It's not the, I know I'm gonna get shit for this, but it's not the escape that people wanted. Let me explain. People, whenever they go into a video game, they want escapism. They want to be able to get away from their own reality. They want to be able to be like, okay, you know what, I had a bad day at work. Let me sit down and play a video game for a couple of hours. Or, you know what, I just put the kids to bed. Let me just relax with a video game. The Last of Us 2 is a game that really shows us raw emotion. It showcases the fact that people who play this game will absolutely love it, or they will absolutely hate it whatsoever at all. The general population who aren't game reviewers like myself, or, you know, play game throughs like, you know, game playthroughs rather, like PewDiePie or Jacksepticeye or Markiplier, or, you know, any of the big time, you know, gamers on YouTube, they just play it for escapism. They play it to escape the world that we live in, quite frankly, and to enjoy themselves because they want something to do either, you know, at home after they've finished work or on the way to work. When a person's reality is better than the game, that's when some players got mad because it didn't give them the escapism that they wanted. Hate for this game, in my eyes, is just unjust. And it's borderline cruel because there was a lot of hate that was given to the voice actors. There was a lot of hate that was spewed around for people who really, they just enjoyed the game, you know? Like, I didn't get much of it, thank goodness. This wasn't another Fallout 3 situation. But there was a lot of people who really just genuinely despised the game to a point of where it was almost like, you okay? You need some help, you know? But then, you know, you have the other side of the coin, which is, you know, the Karens who are bashing their head in a keyboard thinking they're giving a reasonable, sound explanation of why they don't like the game, when in reality, that just sounds like a clicker giving birth. Weird, croaking, and unsettling to my ears. So I'm going to go into my final thoughts, and I want to mention one more big thing before we close off. I did not discuss this in my review. I'd rather talk about it in a video, to be quite honest, because, you know, there's an emotional facial connect whenever I talk with you guys. That's why in certain reviews I talk about things in a video that I do not mention in the article. But there was a lot of people who told me about, you know, you might want to watch out for the fact that the way that Lev's character was handled was triggering for a lot of people who are transgendered. Now, I feel like the inclusion of a trans person was amazing. I did not like the fact that the violence towards Lev was there. I felt like that could be potentially something that is harmful for people who watch the game. It could trigger memories of their own abuse. I don't like the fact that that was in there, you know. And for me personally, I have to choose my words very wisely because I'm not a trans person, you know. I can't speak for the trans community at all, obviously. So whenever I say this from a perspective of someone who's literally playing and reviewing a video game that kind of got caught off guard by the fact that, ooh, why is this kind of violent moment in there? Because again, remember, people play video games to escape a lot of the time. The general population play video games to either find a form of escapism or because they're just intrigued and they have an amazing hobby that they just want to play video games and they do it and they love it. And they come across a game and they're like, oh, wait, that was kind of off. What is that? Much like the whatchamacallit, the sex scene with Abby and Owen. That was a bit off to me. I didn't feel like that should have been in the game. That's something that should just be on HBO Max. Besides those two things, I really think this game is absolutely stunning. It's absolutely incredible. And seeing how each character, each moment in this game holds such a level of significant weight. It's a heavy game, so word to the wise. Keep in mind that this game is very, very heavy. It's not for people who just want, you know, a fun time, something casual to play. This is a very deep game that you're gonna need the tissues for. So, but you guys, if you all like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell down below, because I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and I also make videos on my other channel, Casually Ariel, as well. And stay casually nerdy. I will see you all in the next video. Bye, you guys.